Welcome to After the Buzzer Sports Podcast, the show that's all about real sports and real issues. We've got an incredible show in store for you today, and we also want to hear from you. So make sure you get at us, talk to us on Facebook, talk to us on YouTube, and give us a call. Let's go.
What's up, guys and ladies out there? After the Buzzer Sports Podcast here on a Friday evening. Look, I know it's Friday. It's the end of the week. You know, we've had a long week. A lot of stuff going on in sports that we want to kind of touch on this evening. People out there saying some crazy stuff. We know we're going to get into that a little bit later on. But first of all, Lee, Raquel, how you guys doing this evening? Y'all doing all right?
Doing good, bro.
All right. LP, I know you're doing good. So listen, as he said, 803-570-5031. Get at us. Call in. Tell us what you think about some of the topics we're about to hit. Facebook, join us on YouTube. Subscribe as always. So let's get into some of the topics we're going to cover tonight. NBA players, they decided to resume play in the NBA bubble in Orlando following 2 days of discussion after the boycotting Wednesday night's games. What do you guys think about their thoughts to resume play? Do you think they sold out? Do you think it was a good move? Let's get into that, hear what you guys think. Also, does the NBA community owe Kyrie Irving an apology? Remember, Kyrie was one of the first players to speak out on this, saying that they should not move forward and play games within the bubble. I think a direct quote from Kyrie, it smelled a little fishy. So what do you guys think about the fact that Kyrie said that? Does the NBA, or just as a whole, do we owe him an apology for what he said before we even started this whole thing? Let's weigh in on that. Michael Jordan coming in to serve a key role as liaison between the team owners and players during discussion talks. What are your thoughts about Mike stepping in? I mean, he has a unique perspective as both a player and an owner. So do you think that he is the right person to kind of bridge these talks between players and management? Let's weigh in on that one. What do you think the NBA stance on social justice should be in the wake of Jacob Blake's shooting? Or do you think it will affect the college football season, I should say? So with NBA players kind of standing up so for some of the social justice and Jacob Blake's shooting, do you think it's going to affect the college football season? Do you think players in college football will follow suit and maybe boycott? What do you guys think that means moving forward? So let's weigh in on that as well. We had 9 NFL teams that canceled practice between Wednesday and Thursday supporting the NBA players' boycott. I think we also had some NHL and Major League Baseball games that did the same. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that's going to be a new beginning for the NFL? You're going to see some things in the NFL when it comes around in terms of players boycotting. So let's weigh in and get your thoughts on that. I think that's a pretty heavy issue as well. And lastly, I know everybody heard about Brian Urlacher. You know, some of his Facebook or something that he tweeted and supporting the young man that came with the 17-year-old with the rifle. It's so crazy, but we got to talk about it, what Brian Urlacher said. And do you think that this is a consensus of maybe how some guys feel in the league? So let's weigh in on that. 803-570-5031. Let's jump to it, though, guys. We got the NBA players. They decided to resume play. What do you guys think about their decision to resume play after boycotting a game? You think they sold out, or you think it was a good move? So, Lee, I'm going to let you start us off, get us off to a good start.
Yeah, Marv, I didn't think they were going to cancel the whole season. I know the Lakers and the Clippers voted to do it. If they'd have done it, it wouldn't have been a season, so it would have been over. But I'll say this. I like the fact that they got some concessions and they came together and they organized it for some specifics, right? And they started to put on paper what they wanted and how they wanted the owners to speak on their behalves and was very targeted on what they were looking for to happen. So I'm impressed with that. I didn't think they were going to sit out the whole season anyway, so it didn't surprise me that they came back and played. I just wanted them to make sure that they did it as a collective unit, and made sure that they had specific things that they wanted to get out of this. And I love the fact that it opened it up to the entire sports world. And all different sports rallied behind them. That's powerful. And, I love the fact of the leadership of LeBron James and Chris Paul and those guys. They're strong leaders. And what you only wish that you could get some of those guys in football to take a leadership role like LeBron and Chris Paul and them do. So I think it's good. I didn't think I didn't think they were going to sit out the whole season anyway. But I do think that more than symbolism, they got something in return and they got a conversation started.
Well, what do you guys think about the fact that, Raquel, I'll let you go in a second, but tell me what you guys think about this. The fact that LeBron didn't know Milwaukee was going to do what they did. There were a lot of people that this was kind of off the cuff. They weren't very unified. Nobody knew Milwaukee was going to come out and do what they did. Orlando was on the floor warming up, trying to get ready to play. So it wasn't a unified message to start. So, and also, some reports have come out about how the younger guys were feeling about LeBron in the meeting that they had, in terms that he was talking about, almost like it was his league and they needed to follow, which, hey, look, that's another debate. But it seemed like, because like you said, the Lakers and the Clippers, they were steadfast about saying, we're going to shut it down. Yeah. But it seems like LeBron maybe didn't have as much power as some would make it to believe that he does have, because the younger guys were not feeling this. Was coming out from, some other people today that were saying this, that they weren't on the same page when all of this came out. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's closer to home for Milwaukee, right? So there are a lot of emotions, and I think it was raw emotions, and they may have made a decision in the locker room. So they may have not known before they got there they were going to not play. I think when something is in your house, your response is going to be different than it's in someone else's house, although it affects us all, right? And that was in their house, that was in their backyard. And I think, in all honesty, it was probably a decision that they all made when they got into the locker room. I think they sat down and talked about it and said, we're not playing. And it wasn't a disrespectful thing to anyone else, but they were dealing with their house. And we all know when we're dealing with our homes, we don't consult with anyone before we consult with the people in our home. And I think that's really what happened. There's no doubt that if LeBron doesn't play or Kawhi doesn't play, the NBA doesn't make money. Those guys generate a lot of money for the NBA. The biggest thing for me, and I thought they were going to go back and play as well, and I had a good feeling that they had demands this time. And that's the difference in all of this symbolism, protest, boycott. They made demands. And there's no need, and we've said this before, Marv, why are we boycotting or protesting and not making demands? We're going to do it and then it's over. So I think they came with a plan this time. And some of the notes I took, the truth of the matter is we're living in an America that doesn't love us back. And Doc Rivers said this the best. We keep loving them. We keep doing the patriotic thing. We keep saving lives. We keep fighting. But I saw them detain an alligator 2 days ago that had come from the swamp or whatever, was in a neighborhood. They detained an alligator, but you couldn't detain a man without a gun. The first option was to shoot him. In this country, if we don't have people like LeBron, Chris Paul, Doc Rivers, if we don't have guys that powerful step up and make demands, see, we can't really make those kind of demands because, as Lee said the other night, we have to go to work. We don't have the liberty to say, I'm not going to show up, because it's not a big enough effect. But when guys like that step up and make demands, those demands are being met. And I can tell you, this vote for the Democratic presidency is so important, and for the NBA to open up all their arenas for voting, polling places, that is huge. We had a cluster F for this last election, just here in South Carolina for the coroner's race. And we know that we elected the first Black woman in the history of South Carolina. We made history in a big way. But we had people standing in line at the polls at 11 p.m. Yeah. So for the NBA to open up their arenas, changes the ball game for Black voters, whether they realize it or not. Because we saw it firsthand here. We had old people, sugar levels dropping because they were in line for 6 hours. We had to go out and get food for elderly people so that they can stay in line to vote, to make history. And we're in the same situation. So my hat goes off to those guys. It's been an emotional week for me, looking at all the stuff that's happening. So I'm super proud of the guys in the NBA and super proud of all the other professional athletic teams that step up and say, hey, we're not going to play either, because we need that type of unity to really make a change.
Lee, do you think that it might have had anything to do with the CBA? Because
them coming back and playing.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't, but
well, I say that because if they didn't have implicit, the league wasn't on board with this, and they didn't play, then that would have automatically canceled the rest of the season. The season would have been done. So
and next year they could open it wide back up,
right,
and renegotiate. Marv, it's a great comment. It's a great comment.
Yeah. I always thought that. Go ahead.
All of it, I think, was in play, Marv. But you know the guy that I really think a lot of who has stepped up is Jaylen Brown from the Celtics, Marv. Yeah. Because he made that comment because and rightfully so. If we stop playing, what are you going to do? Are you just going to go back home and hang out with your kids and your wife? Or are you going to go back in the community and actually do something and have some tangible stuff? Because that's what I always say. I mean, I don't mind. If you want to do it, hey, I'm with you. But don't just go home and sit on the couch and say, now I want to be with my family. Do something tangible. And the one thing that I will say about the Milwaukee thing, Mark, they were going to forfeit the game, right?
Right.
Yes.
I think personally, that would have been powerful. And I know the NBA, the other players thought that they should have known, but to forfeit and give Orlando the win and just say we're not going to play, but we forfeit, right? We forfeit. I thought that would have been powerful because like Raquel said, it is their community, right? And so it would have been extremely powerful that Milwaukee and then the other teams joined in suit. I thought that would have been a good way to go.
Lee, you say that, and let me tell you why the NBA didn't allow them to forfeit. It's too much power. They would have relinquished a type of power that they didn't want to, which is the conversations that are really happening at the college level, right? If they understand just how powerful they are, we got to change college sports forever. And I think the NBA said, you know what? We're not going to give them this. We're not going to let the players give anything. We're going to give it so that we don't relinquish even more power. It would have been a powerful thing in the NBA playoffs for a team to say, you won.
You forfeit, yeah.
You won.
Marv, I got a question for you though.
Yeah.
You brought it up about LeBron and the power that he yields. Now, remember, he first said no, then he came back the next day. What do you think about the power that he is? Because a lot of people can say whatever, but tell me what you think about his power as far as leadership, and so goes LeBron, so go the league.
Well, I think that maybe LeBron in yielding and going ahead and saying, okay, let's continue to play, maybe he was thinking about other players. That's kind of where I came out with him. It was two teams. But what was interesting, remember back when Pat Beverly said before they started this whole NBA ball, when he said
it's gonna happen.
If LeBron say it's gonna happen. So it's an interesting paradigm, kind of how this all happened. But I think that LeBron is a very level-tempered leader. I think that he probably stepped back and saw that it was for the good of the league to go ahead and continue to play. And I think that that's what good leaders do. They kind of get in and they do what's best for the collective group. Right. But so that's kind of where I come. But let me say one more thing. Go ahead, Lamondre. I know you just came in.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we do have a comment on Facebook, and Sandra Keaton says, what do you guys think about what Kenny Smith did?
I love it.
It was a great move.
Yeah, I loved what Kenny Smith did. I think it was a powerful move. I think he didn't want to just be a talking head, even though that's what he is, and he gets on and he talks about basketball, but he is a former player. And I think it was a strong stance for him to walk off and stand with the players. And I also think, and a lot of people may not have heard this though, and Sandra, was go back and look up Chris Webber and his speech.
Oh yeah, I saw the video. Powerful.
Off
yeah.
the cuff, but really raw emotion about really what he was feeling about this. That was probably one of the, and then people give Chris Webber a lot of slack about his commentary and stuff, but that was a really powerful thing. But Raquel, and we talk about this all the time, and we brought this up about the substance, right? What are we going to get from this? And I think we've already started to see it. You saw the Wisconsin's governor, I think it's Tony Evans or something. They've already called a special meeting for the state legislature to put gun reform, have a special vote on a bill for gun reform. It's already happened. So that's just from the power of just these players not playing and bringing attention to this. So I think those are the things that we're looking for. So it was pretty powerful, some of the stuff that happened from that.
The response of the sports community in general, though, Marv, that I think, along with the NBA players and how they were supported by all sports, man, it just showed so well, man. I was very proud of all athletes and what they did, black and white,
absolutely.
And Mark, we've been talking about, this is what we've been talking about right from day one when we started talking about racial injustice. It is going to be difficult. It's a great start, but it's difficult to find balance in 400 years of racism.
Yeah.
I'm looking at data right now for the educational system and trying to figure out what do we do for high school seniors that potentially can go to college and play a sport? That led me to looking at educational data and how when schools are desegregated, do you know they didn't make one adjustment for African-American children who had never been in school? We had to go into their system and adjust to their system.
Yeah.
And we are still paying for it right now. So when I think about Black athletes that struggle in the classroom, it ties all the way back to that. Racial injustice and what the country has done to us over the last 400 years. We're still paying for that 400 years ago, right now. Our Black male athletes that are struggling in the classroom, they too were pushed into a system that never was designed for them to really be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's blend that into Kyrie Irving. Before they went into the bubble, Kyrie was outspoken. I think Dwight Howard might have been with him and a few others. Avery Bradley, of course, talking about that they shouldn't have the restart, that it was going to take away from the cause. Do we owe Kyrie an apology? Does the NBA owe Kyrie an apology? Raquel, I see you shaking your face. You're shaking your head there. So
my comment when we had this conversation was he did the right thing, but it was the wrong player. I said, if LeBron would have said it, we would have made noise. I said, he was right, but I don't respect him enough to do anything he says. Those were my comments.
Vice president of the players. I mean, he is vice president, but no, I get what you're saying.
I said me. My exact words to you guys were, if LeBron would have said it, we would have had traction. The wrong player said it. That's all. But yes, he was right.
Do you owe him an apology, Raquel? That was the question.
Well, no, because I agreed with him. I wasn't in disagreement with him in his stance. It just wasn't the right player. So I'm not a Kyrie fan at all. But no, I wouldn't give him an apology. I think he should have got with the top players in the league. I think he should have gotten with the players in the league that could have really made a difference. I think he should have been smart enough to know that he couldn't have made that type of movement. That's all.
Listen, I'm gonna say, yeah, we owe him an apology. I think we do. And listen, and I remember one of our early shows, Lee, and both of y'all kind of got on me because Kyrie donated $1.5 million to WNBA players that boycotted, and I was kind of like, that's all right, but whatever. But Kyrie, I got to take it back. I got to give Kyrie his props because he's walked the walk. He's done that. He produced a documentary on Breonna Taylor that came out in July. Other than the earth is flat comment that he made, he's really he's walked, he's done what he said he was going to do. And we've all talked about what substance is going to come from this. And with the players boycotting a game, I mean, that just proves that Kyrie was right. He was right in saying we shouldn't be playing this smells fishy. And just where we are right now with NBA players, you got to say Kyrie was right. He hit it on the head with it. So I got to say, my bad, Kyrie.
I agree. You know, Marv, I'm a Kyrie guy, so
Yeah.
you know that. So I'm gonna yield my time back to Raquel, and I want to understand why you don't apologize to the man. He was absolutely right. And Raquel, he's a vice president in the Players Association. He is the right person to say these things. To me, I've always thought that Kyrie was mislabeled. He's a very bright guy. He just, he's kind of aloof and kind of, but he's a bright guy. So Raquel, again, explain to me why you wouldn't apologize to him because he's the wrong person again. Because
I didn't think he was wrong. I agreed with the stance he took. I think Marv and I agreed with the stance he took immediately. My point was, if LeBron would have said it, we wouldn't have been in the bubble. That was my only point. The wrong player said it. He doesn't have enough influence, and everything is about influence. Sports, business, everything. He didn't have enough influence for people to follow him and do it. Now, you guys just said if LeBron says it, it gets done, right? LeBron was willing. He shifted the paradigm. You don't think if it wasn't for LeBron saying it, we wouldn't have the arenas to have these voting polls.
Hold on, Lee, before you say something, Lee.
An apology, Raquel.
I'm not apologizing for him. I didn't think he was wrong. He just wasn't a guy with enough. He didn't have enough influence to change the paradigm. And I said, if LeBron would have said the exact same thing, it would have happened. Mark, go ahead. I'll let you get in.
No, guys. Think about this though. Think about when Kyrie came out with this. How much backlash he got from players.
That's what I'm talking about, Marv.
Remember when Kendrick Perkins said he had a bird brain and
they talked about him like a dog.
About him like a dog. So to Raquel's point, would they have dared said that if that came out of LeBron's mouth? Hell no.
We would have saw action right then and there. So my only point, Lee, is he doesn't have enough influence over anyone to make a decision this big.
Well,
no one is going to follow him. That was my only point.
Right.
But he was right.
He was voted vice president, and there were people that followed him. But of course, the masses wanted to play. But the question was, do we owe him an apology? And
I've said no, and I've told you why. You want me to tell you again? I've said no. I wouldn't apologize to him.
That half-hearted answer you give it, I want to hear that.
I'll say it again. No, I would not apologize for Kyrie. He should have handed the torch to someone who had the influence to get the job done.
They butchered that man.
His thought process was 100% correct.
And his
thought process was right. I agree with his thought process. I agree with what he wanted to do. He just wasn't a person with enough influence to get it done.
You can easily say of all the NBA players, current players, Kyrie has done the most in the time of this pandemic than any player in the league.
Yeah.
It doesn't change his influence. I'm not saying what he has done or what he hasn't done. I'm not saying what he's done and what he hasn't done. This isn't about what he's done or what he hasn't done. This is solely about influence and who can get it done and who can't. That's it.
Yeah,
I agree. To a man as owed an apology, and I see now. I don't ever want to cross you, Raquel, because you ain't gonna never apologize.
No.
No, I mean, but Raquel's right in a sense. Like, I said I'm
Marv,
sorry.
I know I'm right.
Yeah, she's right, but he doesn't. He doesn't carry enough influence to pull the people that he needed to really get this across the finish line the way that he wanted to. That's what it really boiled down to.
We're all the NBA community. Me, you, Raquel, everybody that's listening, and we're considered the NBA community because we support the NBA. The man is owed an apology for the way they treated him.
But you get to feel that way, and it's okay. I understand why you feel that way. But I think you're so one-sided in almost everything.
No, I'm not
so
one-sided.
we have to go through
hell
to get you to side.
I'm fair, Raquel, and we're gonna have to get you some fairness into your soul, Mark. Get us some fairness.
Well, let's see if we can get some fairness on this lesson. Let's move on to the GOAT. Hey, guys, remember 803-570-5031. Call in, check in with us, tell us what you think about what we're talking about. But the GOAT, MJ, he's serving as a key role as liaison between team owners and players during this protest and the talks. How you guys feel about the GOAT stepping in and trying to mediate this discussion?
It's about time for him to put his hat into something political, something other than basketball. So I can appreciate him doing something other than basketball.
$2.2 billion that he's worth.
Making money. You know, when Mike played, he really stayed away from things like this, and I understood why. But it's nice to see him actually take a stance, and a stance that's visible, not just dollars, throwing dollars at it, you know, behind closed doors, but actually being seen and stepping in. He carries a lot of weight. Players respect him. So I think, you know, when Michael Jordan comes in a room to do something he doesn't traditionally do, and that's get into political matters, when he comes in the room and he's talking to players and trying to find the middle road, I think you listen, right? Just because he's Michael Jordan, he's earned that much. His work on the basketball court will at least allow me to listen to him. Even if I felt differently, I'm going to listen because he's earned that right. So I'm super excited that he's actually taking a role beyond basketball and beyond giving money behind closed doors. So I'm proud. And I think they did the right thing because this thing affects players. Some players are living paycheck to paycheck. It affects, you know, so many different areas. And I think it was the right thing for the guys to come back and play. So I think it took someone like Michael Jordan stepping in and say, hey, we need to do this. And who knows what the conversations were behind closed doors as well.
Boy, that's a fine line he got to tote, though. I mean, I know he's MJ and I know he's the greatest, but he's still an owner. I mean,
yeah.
he's still a bottom line person now. He's no longer a hooper. He's an owner. And he's with those guys that trying to make money out of this, right? So yes, he has cachet because he's been a championship player. We all know who MJ is. You know, and he's trying to toe the line between both. And I think that his role has been to listen to players and really kind of educate owners on what players are really saying. Because Lee, as we were kind of talking about off camera, some of these guys are really out of touch. You know, NBA maybe not as much as the NFL. Younger, but still, and I think he's an important cog in trying to help them understand today's player and what they're really looking for. You know, the NBA pledged $300 million over 10 years, but there's really been no, you know, real plan about where that's going. And I think players need they wanted something that was more pinpoint on how we were really going to affect and change what we're seeing today. So yeah, I mean, I like it, but I like, you know, I need to see what comes out of it. There got to be some action out of this. Lee?
The GOAT doing GOAT things. That's what I think it is right there. The GOAT doing GOAT things. But what I love about him, Marv, is he got up in the owners meeting because, you know, as soon as the boycott happened, the owners were going to start to lay out their plan. Right. And Mike told the owners to relax, listen to the players. And so I love that about what Mike did. That was huge. And the fact that, you know, Paul is on the Jordan brand, Russell Westbrook is on the Jordan brand. All these guys are in the Jordan brand. So those connections, he can relate to them. So, you know, kudos to the GOAT for doing things to save basketball the way he saved it in his playing days. The greatest of all time. And I love the fact that once again, he's doing great things. Michael Jordan saves the day. I want another Space Jam for him, Marv, so that we can see him on the screen once again doing things that the GOAT does. Raquel, you got to give it up. And next time, don't try to take a dig at MJ.
Lee, you can have your opinion. Your opinion isn't God. Okay? You have your opinion. Nobody's beating your ass up about your opinion. Let's move on.
$100 million.
Let's move on.
$100 million.
Next, Marv, let's go.
$100 million. Quit taking jabs at people that donate $100 million.
You stop being so petty.
I'm not petty. I'm just
petty.
I don't like it when you focus. You got to speak truth.
You get to say what you want to say and what you feel, and so does everybody else. You don't get to dictate what anyone else says.
I'm not dictating.
Or what anyone else feels or thinks, for that matter. Marv, go to the next question.
$100 million.
I'm gonna have to get the little bell. Ding ding. Round one is over. Let's go. Round two, getting ready to start.
Keep everybody honest.
So with the NBA and the thought of the NBA protests and the boycotts that went on, do you guys think this is going to bleed over into college football? Do you think that we'll see this in college football moving forward? Do you think we'll see any demonstrations this year from college football in general? Guys, weigh in on that. Tell us what you think. Raquel?
I would assume so. If you guys pay attention to Pee Wee football in South Carolina, the state you actually live in, Lee, we had little Pee Wee guys taking knees that took knees over the week. And I thought, wow. And initially I was like, I wonder if somebody's parents said, do this. But, the little kid got his spotlight. The news did an interview on him and he said, no, I did it because it's right. And I want to start up some good trouble. I said, okay, John Lewis, proud moment, very patriotic. I'm sure we'll see some of that from college players. I would be very surprised if we did not.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I come from a college era where you wouldn't dare do this, right? We're in a different time. So you're going to see, coaches and athletic departments are still in that old school era, but you got players now that can reach pretty much everybody. Back when I played, it was the coaches and the athletic departments would say one thing to the media, but behind closed doors, we wouldn't dare say anything or cross that line. So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate, the whole climate of what's going on right now. And also with college football, it's different than professional sports. When you put that jersey on in college, you're a representation of that university first and foremost. I mean, that's what they always tell you. It's not a representation of self. It's a representation of who you play for, which is the university. So how do coaches now start to, toe that line with what's going on? It's going to be interesting, especially with some of your bigger programs like Clemson and Alabama and some of these programs. Alabama's doing a march, I think, on Monday to play a unity march that they kind of put together. And that's all well and good. But, when it comes down to the season and there's another shooting, because, history has told us it's going to happen. It's going to happen again. How are they going to deal with this and how are they going to move forward from it? So I'm going to be interested to see. Now, if the college football season was getting ready to start and we were dealing with this, I might say, hell yeah, we're going to see it. But we got some time for things to kind of level out, right, before college football really starts. So that's what gives me the impression that maybe we won't see as much. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they do this. Lee?
Protesting, yes. Boycotting games, I very seriously doubt that. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. I think you'll have kids on campus protesting and doing things like that for social injustice, and I commend them for doing it. But boycotting games, that control you just talked about, Marv, that the coaches have that control as far as the game, and we haven't. They're not going to let that seep into their minds about what they do on Saturdays. Now, they might lead a march and they might stand hand in hand with the players, but boycotting games and giving up that time on Saturdays, the playing, no, I don't think that'll happen at all. I do see protests happening on campus, but not a game.
And guys, we also have to remember NBA, college football, two different animals, right? And we also have to remember that the NBA is 79, 80% black, right? And the NBA crowd is much more diverse than most other professional sports. The NBA is a world game now. It's all over the world. And it tends to be a much more liberal fan base. Let's just be quite honest. When you get to college football, especially here in the Deep South and other places where you are, you get a different kind of fan base. So how do you, as a player, as a coach, a Nick Saban, when most of your boosters feel one way, and them people that write the check feel one way, but you have to be able to deal with these modern players and look like you are in it with them to be able to still recruit the best players. Like, how do they toe this line? This is going to be real interesting to see, because the football crowd is different than the NBA crowd. It just go ahead, Lee.
It's totally different. Totally different. Lamar, the main thing about it is the NBA and the owners are business partners. Yeah. So they're business partners. They're not, that's a totally different model. They're business partners, so they can do that, and because they're working with their partners. These college guys, like you said, they're on scholarship. They're influenced by the coaching and the administration, and I just don't see any way that you're going to see players boycott these games, especially how hard they're fighting to get the season kicked off and to play. So I very seriously doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Hey, tune in, guys. 803-570-5031. Call in, let us know what you think. Let's move on to the NFL. We see that they've canceled some practices between Wednesday and Thursday supporting the NBA. The boycott. What do you guys think about the NFL's, boycotting or canceling some practices? And do you actually think NFL players will boycott games in this upcoming season? Do you think any guys will actually step out that far to do that? Go ahead, Raquel.
They didn't do it before. They let Colin kind of ride by itself. So I don't. It's hard to say with the boys in the NFL, man. It's hard to say. I mean, they had the opportunity. I think Colin kind of jumped out there in a big way, and he was kind of by himself. So I don't know what the guys in the NFL would do. We know what the NBA guys are going to do, right? But I don't know. I don't know. It would be nice if they did, but I don't have confidence that they will.
It would be great if they did, right? But I don't know how much power players boycotting a game. I don't know how much it would really do on the NFL level. The NFL, more than anybody, would need to see players just say, we not playing, because the NFL owners versus the NBA are two different groups, right? The NFL owners are, old money, they didn't have control for years and years. Their reach is so far from political, to real estate. I mean, their reach is
they are part of the divide in our country.
They are, and this is what we always said about affecting their pockets. NFL players really could, but would we see this? Go ahead, Lamondre.
Yeah, we've got a comment from Facebook. It's from Deborah Garland, and she says exactly, the bottom line is money. The NFL is a different animal.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lee.
It would be if NFL players boycotted and didn't actually play, it would be the most talked about. It would circumvent anything that the NBA players are doing. There's no doubt about that. I mean, NFL is king in this country, and if they did it, oh man, that would send a message, because you got to look at it. It's a $16 billion industry, right? And so that would be huge news if they did it 1 week. But let me say this, and again, that's not going to happen. Look, NFL players can't even get together to get a collective bargaining agreement, Marv, that gets them guaranteed contracts, that gets the franchise tag taken out of there. All of the things that you would want for players that are risking their lives far more than anybody else. They can't even get together as a union and stand strong to get that done. And just think about it. There's never been an NFL strike. Baseball struck, and they lost the entire 1994 season. They lost the World Series. Basketball struck, and they lost 20-something games of a season. The year San Antonio won, they played 50 games or whatever. The NFL, they struck one time, and people were crossing the picket line like they was walking across the street. So it's just not going to happen, Mark. It's the mentality of those football players. They play 16 games a year, and basketball is an equal partnership. Football, the owners got all the control and all the power. Right. That I can't say that. If it did, it would be a huge thing. And if you're talking about moving the needle on social justice,
right. Do you think if the right players were the ones to strike, it could move the needle? Maybe like a Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, and they got together and was like, I'm not playing. I mean, do you think the right players could move the needle?
I think if
Lamar Jackson, let me throw that one in there for y'all.
If enough of the prominent African American players say we're not playing, it could make a difference. You're not going to get any white players that's going to boycott anything. Tom Brady ain't boycotting anything. No, Tom Brady's so busy trying to prove that Bill Belichick wasn't the guy that he ain't boycotting anything. But I just don't see it happening, Mark. The mentality of football players is totally, totally different from basketball players. Totally different. And so I don't see it. It would take a significant number because I don't think a quarterback, let's say Patrick Mahomes said, I'm not playing. Man, their players would go crazy over there on the Kansas City team, and he wouldn't do that to them. So it would be a collective, significant number. But I wish that the NFL would form a Black Players Union separate from the Players Association. This kind of stuff could be talked about, though.
What do you guys think about Major League Baseball joining in, and they've boycotted I think a couple of games in the NHL? Do you think that moves the needle at all with the NHL and Major League Baseball, or it's just symbolic, just a symbolic gesture?
Symbolic.
Yeah.
I like what the NHL did because they have very few African American players in the NHL, and for them to really stop and do that, and Mark, they have a lot of foreign players too. Right. Which I think was impressive that they stopped to recognize and did it. Kind of upset with Major League Baseball because they weren't unified. Some people boycotted, others didn't. Some teams played, and so. But I was impressed with what the NHL did because I thought that was huge. Because look at the number of foreign players in the NHL. Hell, someone probably didn't know what the hell was going on. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, let's move on.
Raquel, could you smile for me, please? I'm sorry. It just makes me. I feel bad. And please, just a quick smile for the audience, please. Thank you. Come on, you can do it.
Let's move on to Lamondre. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So we have another comment from Facebook, and it's from Deborah Garland. She says, Mahomes is just getting started, and Brady's trying to prove he's a factor at his age. So, yeah, good comment.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, let's touch on the last subject that we got here, Brian Urlacher. We gotta get into this. So, everybody knows kind of what's going on with him and what he said. So, let's get your guys' thoughts. How you feel about Brian Urlacher right now? And it says open to whoever want to start.
Ladies first, my friend. Go ahead, please. I know you bringing the fire on this one, Raquel. Go ahead.
I don't have anything nice to say.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Go ahead.
The audacity of him. He's just as bad as the cops that is stepping on our necks. That's how I feel about him. He is just as bad as the cops that are stepping on our necks. And if in his rabbit brain, the small one that he must obviously have, thinks that it's okay to shoot a unarmed man in the back, at least shoot him in his face. At least shoot him in his chest. If you're gonna do it, because you certainly tried to kill him. Because there's no need to shoot anybody 7 times in their back.
That's very true.
1 would have done it. 2, okay. 7? So you wanted to kill me so that I didn't have a voice after this thing is over. Because for anyone that has a CWP, it's a license to carry a weapon, in the state of South Carolina, in any class that you take, your instructor is gonna say, empty your clip. So there's only one story. Every instructor is going to say that. So don't think for one moment Mr. Bryan, that wasn't the concept of the cops. He had 5 more bullets, but 7 is enough when you shoot someone in the back, because apparently he didn't move anymore. He is just as bad as the cop that pulled the trigger. He is just as bad as the guy who stepped on Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. There's no doubt in my mind, guys, especially after he likes the comment from the 17-year-old.
Yeah,
After he did that
was foul. That was foul.
It lets me know that we're just niggas to him, that he has to tolerate to get his paycheck. We're just niggas. We're not as human as him. We're not as good as he. And no, so what? So what? He's a convicted felon. So what? He's Black. So what? And that's what he said. As soon as he hit like on that kid's comment, that's what he said.
Mark, would you read the statement so that the audience know why Raquel is so passionate? Because I think they just need to hear it, bro. I guess
specifically, Brian Urlacher said NBA players boycott the playoffs because a dude reaching for a knife wanted on a felony sexual assault warrant was shot by police. That's what he said. And then, of course, he liked the Instagram post to free or the demand the freedom of Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old charged with murder after allegedly shooting 3 protesters, killing 2. So that's where the outrage is coming from. But it's the old racist playbook, right? To dismantle the character of the victim, make him seem like, he was not worthy of, living, to make him seem like just the worst person in the world that deserved this kind of treatment and behavior. His statement is just ignorant. It sounds like he was hanging out in, some of the echo chambers of Facebook and some news outlets where you just get one side of stories and you sit in your echo chamber of thoughts and you guys all talk to each other and come up with this narrative. That's what it sounds like. But what's even more, a lot of his players have come out that he played with in Chicago have come out, and Matt Forte made a really strong statement about it. And I think a lot of people don't realize, they're like, well, how did people not know he felt like this when they were playing with him and he was such a great guy? I mean, people don't realize that, you're not tight with everybody you play with.
Right.
I mean, hell, most of the time, most of the time you don't even like most people you play with. Like, y'all don't hang. I don't know nothing about you after you leave that locker room. Yeah. And what we say in that locker room typically is so inconsequential to who you are or who I am. It doesn't really matter. So, nobody knows what his true feelings really were. It's a game. It's an act. He's doing the commercials. He's the leader of the team. It's an act. It's something that he has to do to get that paycheck and to be the face of whatever he was. But when he goes home, we don't know, we don't know who he is. But this now is giving us an idea of who he is and really, really thinks. And I bet a lot of guys now that used to play with him probably being like, yep, you know what? I knew that. Yep. And he said that, now you think back on probably some of the questionable things he said or did while he was in the locker room. But, I'm just going to chalk it up to this is just ignorance.
You know how, and you hit it on the head, Marv. The offensive players, they don't hang out with the defensive players in football. It's really a segmented locker room, really. And so these people, and I'm waiting for somebody to defend this because it's indefensible, really. Yeah. To try to come out and say something, or this is not the guy I knew. Well, you really didn't know him, like you said, Marv. Right. These guys, man, I'm gonna say this. Marv, I'm first love is the NFL, and I'm a historian of the NFL. And when you look at what they do, look, most of the time, these owners and these coaches identify the white person to be the captain on the NFL. Yeah. Right. And they control the locker room. And so no one really questioned who he was, Marv, because he had that C on his chest, right? Yeah. Right. But like you said, they didn't know who he was or what he did when he went home. you know. And so then they get this automatic bump post career because of, you know, perceived how great of a guy he was and a player. Man, this guy's trash. It's trash. For him to say that, no matter what you thought, nobody deserves, like Raquel said, to be shot 7 times in the back.
Yeah.
In the back? Come on, man. So that's distasteful. That's nasty. But I've always known this, and then I'll get with you, Lamadre, that people in sports, they do it to make the money. They tolerate you long enough to make their money. And the smart ones, Raquel, the smart ones know how to play that game. That's why I want to always be on the side of helping our young Black people learn how to play that game. Because that's a psychological game that starts early on that our kids need to learn how to play. Because Urlacher is a multi-millionaire, probably have $120 million in the bank. So now they can say any damn thing. Yeah. I'm sorry, Lamadre, go ahead.
No, points very well taken. Another comment from Facebook. It's from Deborah Garland. She says, and the bottom line is he's a white man in America, and we are always considered second class. And that was her comment. But let me say this also. When I think about just how ridiculous and how just outright and on the face of it, racist and the sense of I am superior, that those comments and actions were, I think about that, you know, it's not even just about the fact that he's made enough money now so he feels like he can say that. But in the current climate that we live in, people with those leanings are now emboldened because they feel like they can. They now have a new sense of, oh no, I can speak exactly what's on my mind now. And for some reason, even people who have a lot to lose are also emboldened in that. Now they have a tendency to retract once they actually feel the consequences of their actions. But the truth is they are emboldened by the current administration and this current environment. So this is, and what Raquel was talking about at the very beginning of the show, we've got to get active. We got to get engaged. We got to make some changes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well said,
Andre.
Lou hosts the same way, Bar. Lou hosts the same way. Lou hosts the same way. You know, everybody love Lou Holtz. I used to love Lou Holtz, man. Coach to Arkansas, Notre Dame, this nice, lovable granddad. Lou, man, forget these guys, man. They in their old age, man. The true feelings, and like we talked about, I'm sorry, Raquel, I didn't mean to cut you off. The true feelings, what we talked about, the Jerry Jones of the world, all of these old guys, you got to understand, they grew up. They were born in the 40s. They grew up in the 60s. They were the same people that were throwing milkshakes on people and when they try to sit at the counter. And these type of feelings are inherently in them, and they translate that and allow their star players, the white ones anyway, to do these things and make these kind of comments. And we need to embolden our Black players, the Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jacksons, the people like this, and Russell Wilsons, to stand up and call this stuff out. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Raquel.
No. I when I read the topics for the show today, my only thing was don't get too emotional, because you know the whole show tonight has been just we live in such rare times, and for a Black man or a white man, for a Black woman or a white woman to feel comfortable with making that type of comment. We are a inhumane country now. Yeah. You're not human if it's okay to shoot anyone in their back 7 times. That's not putting up a fight. It's just not human. And unfortunately for us, it's our people. So every time I have to think about my son leaving the house, every time that I have to even consider you or Marv leaving the house, I have to consider, I may not see you on Monday. I just may not see you on Monday because your face isn't recognizable and you are the typical look of a Black man. Yep. Forget what you've done. Forget that you're a father. Forget that you're a son. Forget that you're a brother. I literally very well may not see you on Monday for our Monday show, only because you're Black. It is infuriating to me. We live in a country where we gotta vote. We have
gotta
to
vote.
put more people in those chairs that are going to support us. And the presidential election is so very important. But I tell you what, people get out and vote for the local people control you. Your county, your city councils, your commissioners, those are the people that control your day-to-day. You must get out and vote. That is a start to making a change to a country who doesn't love us, as Doc said. We keep loving this country. We keep working. We built this country. But we're treated like farm animals that are sitting and waiting on their time to be killed to be ate. That's how we're treated in this country.
I had a conversation. Yeah, just real quick. I had a conversation with, some white friends of mine, and they asked, what is it that we can do? Like, what do we do? And, I said, maybe it's time for you to start maybe weaponizing your white privilege, and start aiming at the people who are killing us with it. It's time. It's not enough anymore for you to just feel sorry and feel sad and be like, oh, that's unfortunate. It's not enough anymore. And it's time for people to start speaking up on the things that they see. But as Lee said, and you guys said, people have been emboldened, like Lamondre said, they've been emboldened by this administration. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And people, what you're seeing. Like, stop trying to placate it. Stop trying to make excuses for it. We know what we see. So, that's all I really wanted to say about it. People just need to stop feeling sorry and start doing something about it.
Yeah.
And Marv, it's not enough for them, my white friends, it's not enough for them to be, I'm not racist. Okay, we know that all white people aren't racist. No, none of us are saying that they are, and we know that. Yeah. But you won't speak up
right
about racism enough. You gotta start saying and having these conversations when you see it, when you know it's happening. You need to speak up. If I were to say to any white person, you gotta speak up, man. When people like Vince Carter, Marvin, and I know we got to end the show. Vince Carter said he lives in this exclusive neighborhood, and the man said, they have a police that patrols the neighborhood. And he said when he walks down his driveway to his mailbox, now he has to have his phone and his ID in his pocket.
Yeah.
Because you never know when a police officer is going to mistake him that don't really know him, or may even know him and just want to mess with him, and start to do that. Man, that's a sad commentary on the world that you have that situation, and we're the only people in the country that has that. So
yeah. Well, we've come to the end of the show. We hate to end on such a heavy note, but it's real. It's real what we're living in today, and we'll give you something to think about over the weekend and think about what you can do to help make a change. But like Raquel said, most importantly, we got to vote. We got to get out. We got to, on the local level, like Raquel said, we got to get out and make action. So that's the one thing I think we want to leave you guys with. Get out and make some action. Get out and vote.
And I want to leave you with my endorsement for Raquel M.R. Thomas for Richland 1 School District. That's my endorsement, people.
There you go. You heard it here.
That's my sister, and y'all better vote for it. You got that?
All right. Well, we coming in, guys. For Lee Jones, Raquel M.R. Thomas, Lamondre, I'm Marvin Orange, of course. Thank you guys for joining for After the Buzzer Sports Podcast. Have a great evening, great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
All right.
Bye, guys.